everyone! So I'm in a little bit of a different filming location, so we're gonna see how this works. I'm actually sitting in a chair instead of the floor, so hopefully this works out. I do have a window right here, so there's a little bit of light coming through, so hopefully it doesn't look too bad. But I just thought it might be a little bit more comfortable and a little bit more of me sitting here talking with you guys, just kind of having a good conversation. Since we are friends, I mean, I think of you guys as friends. So just us kind of sitting down and chatting about our knitting. So today is week 2 recap of the Sewrella Make Along, and I'm just going to first admit I did not reach my goal for this week. It was a little bit more tedious on portions of the pattern than I thought it was going to be, and I just did not get as far as I wanted to, which is okay because that happens, but I'm hoping this next week I'll actually make my goal, but let's talk about it. So, the pattern I'm using is the Lunan top, and of course I'll have it linked down below for you guys to take a look at. I'm using Sewrella's Summer yarn for this make along, and I did put a marker showing you where I started so you guys can kind of see what I got done in this past week. So it's kind of starting to take shape of a shirt, so that's exciting. So I know in my last video I mentioned that I had a little bit more decreasing to do. I actually had quite a few more rows to do. I didn't realize I had. So this is where I started, and then I think it ended up being like 12 rows or something like that I still had to do on the back, and it was decreasing for the armholes, and then I ended up picking up stitches along the shoulder, and that's what I was working to create the front. So I got the left side done and they're on a holder. I did not finish the right side and was not able to join the front and the back together, which was my goal for this past week. So I did not reach my goal. I almost got there, but I still have about 30 more rows to do on the right side before I can even join the front and the back together. So I'm not there at all, but that's okay. I was just, like I said, there were some tedious parts of this, and also I was a little bit busier this past week than I thought I was going to be. I did try to work on it a lot yesterday, and I ended up finishing the left side yesterday and getting this far on the right side, but I just was not able to actually meet my goal, but that's okay. So, kind of talking a little bit about the struggles I had. The biggest struggle I honestly had was picking up stitches. Normally that doesn't bother me. It's pretty easy for me to pick up stitches, but I was struggling because I had only about, I believe it was 28 rows or so of the shoulder that I was picking up, and I needed 39 stitches, or maybe it was like almost 30 stitches, and I had about 39 stitches to pick up. I might be a little bit off, but I had to pick up more stitches than I had really of rows, so I couldn't really pick up 1 stitch per row and get what I needed. I had to kind of make more stitches in the space of the shoulder, so I really did struggle with that, and I don't really feel like it looks the best. It looks a little messy, but what I will say, there is a little bit of forgiveness, because whenever you're creating the shoulder, you have kind of like this nice little seam. It's very like neat, and it's a small detail. Since it is ribbed, it actually kind of overlaps over your join of where you picked up the stitches, so you don't notice it as much. So there is a little bit of forgiveness there, which is nice. And so I just kind of felt like my stitches were very kind of scrunched together in kind of the smaller space, and that's at least how I read the directions, was you had to pick up on the shoulder, and the shoulder was the portion where you're increasing on the back. So that's kind of how I took it, and from looking at her diagram, that's how I saw it. And like I said, I just struggled trying to get more stitches than I had of rows without it making it kind of look a little messy. And that could just be me as a knitter. I've not really encountered that very often in patterns, so that could just be me also. I think I would have probably preferred maybe picking up as many stitches as you had rows and then maybe increasing the next 2 rows or something like that to kind of get it to the stitch count that you needed. Maybe that would have been a little bit better for me, but also maybe that would have not given the shirt the fit that it needs. So like I said, it was just a little complicated for me. I just had a little bit of a hard time trying to figure that out. The first time I did it on the left side, I struggled so much. It took me a solid hour just trying to get, I kept having to rip it out because I didn't like the look of it, and finally I just committed and was like, you know what, I'm just gonna have to, it's gonna be on the back, so it shouldn't be super noticeable, hopefully. But I was a little bit like, oh, it's just not what I wanted. But like I said, I eventually just kind of told myself, like, it's gonna be fine. Like, not everything's perfect. I need to show myself a little bit of grace in that. I'm also growing as a knitter in this project. So that was a little bit of like the tedious part that I struggled with. The other thing is, I will give you a little tip that I wish I would have done. I wish whenever I was making the back, I didn't think about it, but I wish I would have put like a locking stitch marker whenever I ended the increases for the shoulder. So then I would have been able to tell a little bit easier where the shoulder actually ended. Because I had a hard time kind of figuring that out to make sure both of the sides matched. And one of mine is probably like a stitch short, but that's okay. Like a row shorter, so it's okay. We'll finagle it whenever I make the sleeves. But I was a little bit like, oh, that probably would have been a little bit smart on my part if I would have put like a locking little stitch marker, just to so whenever I was picking up the stitches for the shoulder, I would have said like, oh, right here is where the shoulder ends. That's just me. It would have made it a little bit easier for me. So maybe if you make the top, kind of keep that in mind of maybe putting a locking stitch marker whenever you're done increasing. You're just gonna work the back straight after the shoulders. Another thing is, I would give you a big tip is especially keep track of your rows. I would have in the past not done this, so I've kind of learned from past mistakes of wanting to keep track of rows, especially when you have to make 2 sides match. So like working the left side, I kept track of my rows, so I make sure the right side matches with the same amount of rows. And I actually miscounted one of my rows on the right side, and I had to go back and like check. And so I was able to make sure I didn't short myself 2 rows or something. So it's kind of helpful in that way too, just to make sure everything lines up perfectly by keeping track of rows and not just depending 100% on measurement, because I don't know about you, but sometimes I struggle measuring. Some days I'm like, nah, measure is about this. I'm not the best sometimes. And sometimes if you don't have it laid out like the same way every time you measure, which I know you're supposed to, but sometimes I'm on my couch and so like I try to lay it out as flat as I can. But if I'm working on my bed, maybe it's a little bit different because you know, you're in a different location. And so I always try to go more by rows to make sure they match. So that's just another tip for you. If you make this, the left and the right have to match. So maybe keep track of your rows rather than just measuring both sides. I have found that for me, maybe you measure everything, but for me, making sure I have the same amount of rows, even if I know people say like your gauge might be off, well, your rows are going to match up whenever you connect it. So like it will work across too. So that's just how I have found it to be really helpful in my past knitting experience. You can take it or leave it, it doesn't matter. It's just my little tidbit of advice for you guys if you decide to do this. So with that being said, like I said, I got about 12 rows of the back done, the left side done, and I'm not gonna say almost, I'm 30 rows left on the right side. And so for this next week, so for week 3, I think what my goal is, I actually wrote it down. I read through the pattern. I know last week I said I am notorious for not reading the pattern all the way through, which is why, like I mentioned, making the collar. Well, the collar is actually at the end of the project, so I don't have to worry about that till the very end. But I was looking at it and I realized that, so I need to get done the body and length, like the actual body after you connect the back, the front and the back together. It's 11 inches and I believe an inch of ribbing or something like that. So that's gonna take me the longest. So this coming week, I need to finish the right side. That's very, very important. And I also need to start on the body. I'm hoping to get about 5.5 to 6 inches done. So that's gonna be half of the body. And then on week 4, I'm hoping to continue to finish the body. So then week 5, I can do sleeves, and then week 6, I can do the collar. That's kind of what we're looking at, so I can finish this shirt in the time frame of 6 weeks. So crossing our fingers, we can do that. Right now in this time, I don't really have any plans for this next week, and I'm actually thinking about, once I get this joined, I might actually start bringing it with me for my lunch while I'm at work, to work on it during my lunch hour, because I could maybe get a few rows in at least, just so then I kind of feel like I'm actually getting somewhere with it. I did finally break into my 3rd skein, so this project takes less than 3 skeins, but I wanted to make sure I wound up the 3rd one so I can incorporate it. So the 2 hanks I used for the back, I used both of those, and then I wound the 3rd one, and I've been incorporating. So on one side I used one of the skeins from the back and the 3rd skein, and then on the other side I used the 2nd skein from the back and then the 3rd one. So it's kind of incorporating them. Once I start the body, I'm gonna have to think a little bit more on how I want to incorporate the 3rd one, because I really don't want to use 3 skeins. So I'm gonna have to kind of think of how I want to go about that. If I want to do like a certain amount of inches and then incorporate the next one, a certain amount of inches and incorporate the next one, and just kind of go that way. So I might end up doing that, just so that it kind of flows a little bit and it doesn't look like, oh, you can tell exactly where she switched all of her hanks. You know what I mean? Since it is hand dyed. So that's kind of where I am at with that, with the hanks and everything, the skeins, and then so that's kind of where we're at right now. Hopefully, like I said, I'll meet my goal this coming week. It's kind of a lot, I'm not gonna lie. I believe 36 inches, I mean not 36 inches, 36 rows, I think got me around 4 inches and a quarter. I believe that's what I measured out. So I'm gonna need to do probably around, I'm just gonna throw out probably around 45 to 50 rows. So with that in mind, I could probably kind of break it down a little bit more per day, how many rows I need to get per day, which I might actually do just to kind of help give me even more of a goal. So I might say 50, I need to do 50 rounds to meet my goal. So if today I finish up the right side and join it, then I would probably, if I want to give myself a grace period of 1 day, I would need to do probably about 10 rounds a day to meet my goal. But it seems like a lot, actually. You know, I'm thinking about it, I'm like, oh, am I going to be able to get that done? Hopefully. So that is where I'm at with the make along. Hopefully this was kind of informative, since I'm actually kind of working through like the more harder technical parts of the pattern. Hopefully some of my tips and tricks that I'm learning along the way kind of help you guys if you guys end up making this shirt. It is a really cute shirt. I really do love, just because I'm struggling with some of the technical parts does not mean I don't love the look of it. I really do love what this is going to look like. I really love the color. I think it's gonna be really, really pretty, and I can't wait to wear it. So I'm super excited about that, and hopefully it's going to, I think it's going to fit. It looks like it, so it might just be a little bit, definitely something I'm gonna have to block for sure. But yeah, so that is where I'm at, and I think we have some good goals for next week. So definitely let me know in the comments below if you guys are doing this make along, what you guys are making and how far along you are. And let me also know if you've ever made this top, if you kind of struggle with some of the things I've struggled with. I think that's with any pattern I've made. Like there's always those little bits of struggles of just doing a different pattern. Like there's always these little things that were like maybe techniques you've never had to incorporate before. I've kind of found that with myself. So hopefully this is encouraging to you guys that you, like, other people struggle with patterns. Like me, sometimes whenever I hear other people say like, yeah, I kind of struggled with this part of the pattern, it makes me like, okay, I'm not the only one that struggles with patterns sometimes, and like trying to learn different techniques and everything. So hopefully this is an encouragement to you guys. But anyway, like I said, let me know down below what you guys are working on. I would love to hear about it. Anyway, I hope you guys have an amazing week, and I will see you guys next one. Bye!